Who the Wild Things Are with Ryan McGuire.
You gotta listen to your body.
Oh my God, maybe, I could get out there, I could do this.
Let's take a ride, find your wild side, real stories, see with your own eyes.
It's so beautiful.
I'm gonna have the best time out here.
I was in tears. I was like, that's the best, man.
Welcome back to Who the Wild Things Are. My name is Ryan McGuire, and I'm here to bring you conversations with the most wild folks on the planet. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you enjoyed the episode, share it with a friend. Appreciate you guys. Let's get it going. But first, I wanted to drop in and talk to you about something that's really important, which is our connection to food. It's estimated that roughly 1 in 3 young people doesn't even understand where meat comes from. If you would have told me that a while ago, that would be possible, I would have told you no way in hell. We've gotten so far away from nature, and part of my goal is to personally reconnect and help others do the same. And we are going to be doing a course this year called From Field to Feast. It's August 20th to the 24th. And on that course, you'll be learning how to slaughter and process a big game animal. That'll be the first 2 of the 5 days. And then after that animal's processed, we'll be doing a 3-day walkabout on the land as a tribe, eating this animal, using it to sustain us, interacting with the natural world, foraging, getting in really cool rivers and swimming pools, and living in a very natural, holistic way. If this is something you're interested in, hit me up. I'd love to talk to you about it personally, or you can visit thesurvivaluniversity.com or visit my Instagram, ryan.quinn.mcguire, and check out the link in my bio. I hope you guys have been enjoying the podcast, and if you're a real one, I'll see you out in the bush. All right, welcome back to Who the Wild Things Are. I'm here with Meghan Buchanan, aerospace engineer, keynote speaker, and contestant on Outlast, the Netflix series. Meghan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, awesome to be here.
Yeah, so before we get into kind of the crazy adventures, which I definitely want to dive into for sure. Before we get there, I want to kind of give people a little bit of background. What are you most known for, and how did you end up here?
End up here in life in general. I'm a very proud neurodivergent aerospace engineer and also an adventure athlete. So I'm a mountaineer and polar explorer, and I guess soon to be one of the very few people and women to complete the Explorers Grand Slam, which is climbing the highest peak on every continent, and then last degree ski to the North and South Pole. And all I have left is the North Pole. And I climb to raise awareness for neurodivergence. I'm dyslexic and ADHD. And also just like teaching people and inspiring people to really reach down deep inside and build that grit for themselves to achieve extraordinary things. And I just love sharing those tools of grit to help others just achieve the extraordinary.
Amazing. Let's double tap on this neurodivergent thing. What is it, and when did you first realize that it was something that you identified with?
That is an excellent question, because I think that a lot of people who are not in the neurodivergent world, they're afraid to ask, but they're like, what is it? So neurodivergence is really sort of an umbrella term at this point that includes a lot of learning differences. I am dyslexic and ADHD. Under that umbrella, there is also autism, there's auditory processing disorder. There's a lot of different learning differences that are umbrella, but for me specifically is dyslexia and ADHD. I was lucky enough to be diagnosed at 7 years old. And especially when I was 7, there really wasn't as much known about dyslexia at the time. So when you were diagnosed, it was like we're so sorry, your child will achieve nothing type of diagnosis. But I had really, really amazing parents that recognized that I was very smart, and they weren't going to let me, subscribe to a lower idea of what I could be, and just raise me to still work really, really hard to achieve anything I wanted. So it's still, even being diagnosed early and having a really supportive family. The thing that's interesting is that my parents never never tried to make me feel bad about myself, but just from knowing that I was different than everyone else, I put on myself so much shame and embarrassment. And it's really, really difficult. And as a neurodivergent, even though 20% of our population that's tested that we know of is neurodivergent, we still live in a very neurotypical world. So you are constantly coming across things that remind you that things are challenging and you are different. So it is a constant battle through your life to, to keep that self-esteem in check and to move past those obstacles and keep achieving.
Totally. Yeah, I think there's so many people who end up in the outdoor space that had a history or a background of struggling with the status quo and the normal way of learning. And I know that I personally identify with that. It just doesn't seem to fit everyone to sit down in a classroom and read books all the time. Some people have to get out there and feel it and smell it and touch it. And they experience and learn so much more in that way.
You're so right. And for me, I didn't realize till I got older that the outdoors was my therapy. And I remember just struggling so much as a little kid, and my dad loved the outdoors, and so he would take me, and that was our thing together. But also, it was a space where I wasn't embarrassed, and I could just be me, and I was really good at something. And it was the outdoors that helped build my self-confidence, and we use those tools to put into my education to work. Just my parents would be like, wow, you work really hard to hike with your dad and you don't give up. Why don't you try that in school? And so it was these parallels, and it is truly the outdoors is what gave me the ability to keep moving forward and go for my education. And then it always was hand in hand in my life. And it was whenever I needed to tap in to recharge again, it would always be going to the outdoors. And so I finally realized that as an adult, and that's when I really started practicing more and training to become a mountaineer and really working on those skills. And yeah, and you're right. Everyone that I come in contact is such an amazing community, and we all have sort of a similar. It's almost like the outdoors save me, and that's the similar theme with so many people I meet. Is it's just like that is where I am whole.
Definitely. So before we get into kind of the actual adventures, I want to step back and look at your career path and how you got into aerospace engineering. I see a lot of similarities because I've always been fascinated with flight and space, and yeah, just share a lot of the same learning differences with folks. So curious how you ended up choosing that and what that looked like.
Yeah, my dad. My dad was he was a Rhodes Scholar to MIT. Just one of those people that knew absolutely everything, but he was also very, very kind and very patient. And so especially him I've got a brother and sister who are also very brilliant, but they do not have a learning difference. So especially for a man with so much knowledge to have this dyslexic little girl, man, it's because of him that I became an engineer. And, I loved the space program and flight as a kid as well, probably because I was exposed to it a little more. My dad worked in aerospace. But as an adult, and as I just got done writing a book, and you go back and revisit things as a kid, and all these things started clicking for me. I don't know that I decided in 6th grade I wanted to be an aerospace engineer because I saw the shuttle explode and it broke my heart. And my dad talked to me about how you can work on designing better spacecraft. And yes, I love the idea of it, but school really kicked my ass. College did by the time I got to college. And it was hard. And I don't actually know that probably was the best career choice, but I think with my learning difference, I was so focused on proving to myself and to others that I was good enough and I was smart enough that I think that I just didn't let go of that being the bar I had to reach for myself. And I am an engineer today, and I'm more in a managerial role. But I found my niche now. I don't really do the hardcore engineering anymore, but I've actually found my skill set in really building teams and working with people and getting the best out of other engineers and helping them strive. But yeah, that I originally got into it because yes, I did love it. But I think for many, many years, I kind of forced myself to do it, trying to prove something to myself and trying to be good enough for myself. Until one day I was. And so, yeah, it was a path. I just didn't give up.
Yeah, I can resonate with that. I feel like a lot of the things, there's this kind of social contract that we make, right? We tell our friends that we're going to be X or we're going to be Y, and or our parents or our loved ones or spouse. And you go down this road and you kind of fall out of love with it, and you know that it's not filling your cup, but at the same time, you know you've kind of got to finish what you started, whether
Yeah.
that's for good or for bad. And there's kind of this push and pull of like, is it worth it to continue going down this path, or should I make a turn and do something a little different?
And I think even if it is your true purpose and calling too, you still go through those cycles of like doubt or fatigue and I've found too often when you're about to level, when you're getting ready for the next level, you start to doubt things. Or when you just got to that next level and you're struggling a little bit, a little vulnerable, learning new things, you doubt your path and until you kind of rebuild a bit. And that's a really big thing with grit and everything I teach. It isn't just about always pushing through and always finishing. There is this beautiful thing that comes with experience where it is the learning of sometimes when to let go of something. Because I did find, I think probably when I got to late 30s, early 40s, that principle of always pushing through, always finishing it, there were instances where I was actually hurting myself more by not allowing myself to let go of what my purpose was. And I know it's used all the time, but honestly, what doesn't serve you anymore. And so that's a big lesson I learned is like, actually the strongest thing I can do is sometimes quit something, which I just had not, I'd been so trained to never quit. It really, and actually we talked about on Outlast, that was a huge, it all came to fruition in that show. And we'll talk about a little bit where I went into it thinking I was the person I was 10 years ago. And I left because I wasn't that person anymore. And I was really happy with the person I was now.
Well, I think that's a great little transition there. So thanks for doing my job for me.
You're welcome.
Let's talk a little bit about it. First of all, what is Outlast? It's a relatively new show, so some listeners may not be familiar with the show. Yeah, tell us the premise and then maybe how you got involved initially.
Yeah, for sure. So it is an awesome survival reality show that's on Netflix. And I was on season 2, so it is relatively new. I kind of describe it as the shows if Survivor and Alone had a baby. Because I was always obsessed with the show Alone. It's so amazing. But this show is more, I am not a survivalist. And so they were taking different types of people. Some definitely had amazing skills and more like primitive skills or bushcrafting skills. They approached me because I am an endurance athlete in very cold, harsh environments. And so I know how to suffer. I know how to keep going. I know how to keep, producing on little food, little sleep, extreme temperatures. And so I think that's why they approached me. And I was like, this sounds awesome. I will definitely learn some new things. And so it's a reality show where there's 4 teams of 4 is where you start. You're just dropped in, you don't know where. We happen to be in the southeastern portion of Alaska in the Tongass National Forest, rainforest. And you were given very few items and told to go survive with so it's a lot of teamwork. It's a lot of innovation. It's a lot of, and I know this from all of my mountaineering and expeditions, it's also a lot of environment. There's a lot of things that are completely out of your control. So it's a very exciting, fun show, and it was amazing to be a part of.
Very cool. Yeah, that was actually how I found out about you. I had some casting directors reach out to me about it, and I had yet to hear about it, and went back and watched the season, and I was really impressed with the show in general. I thought it was really fun. I actually started by watching season 2.
Oh,
And then I went back and watched season 1, and I found it to be less compelling than your season. So I think your season.
Simone definitely had a lot more drama going on. It is cool. Like the 16 of us are still we're on a text chain. And the one thing we do all agree about, I really love everyone on that show. What's really interesting is I wish they had shown, not for me, because again, I am not a survivalist, but we have people that were so skilled, and we afterwards found out about all the stuff they were doing. I wish they had showed more of that. I'm really close with like Tina now. Oh my gosh, that girl, she built like raised beds. She's amazing. And I know a lot of the other guys were building all sorts of traps and different things. So Netflix next one, like show a little more of the skills, because there are some really talented people that they should have showcased that a little more.
Yeah, it seems like I've had some folks from Alone on the show as well, and I feel like that's often the feedback is like, hey, they cut out all of these like cool moments. And yeah, I'm sure it's a hard job to try and tell the story in a limited amount of time, given that you guys probably had such an incredible amount of footage. Like, I can't even imagine how many hours of film.
Because we're mic'd overnight, and we have so there was a lot to go through. And for my group, for Charlie, like I tell you what, we did not sleep. There was no sleep. So there was a lot of filming at night, like late night conversations and all sorts of things to go through. And at the end of the day, look, it is a show. Like they want to tell a story. I think with any program like this, some things are out of order. Some things they show or said about people that were actually said about someone else. But it's a show. It's entertainment. It is what it is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. In terms of the experience, what you thought it was going to be versus what it actually was it harder than you expected? Was there something that caught you off guard? You were saying earlier that, you felt like you were the person you were 10 years prior until you got out there. Dive into that a little bit for me.
Yeah. I actually went into it. I didn't have a lot of set expectations. I was just going into it like, I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm very confident in that. And we'll see what cards I'm given. It was unfortunate for Team Charlie that none of us were really survival experts. So that was a bummer. But, and no one was really a hunter. And also our spot was the roughest spot. Only place we could be was actually kind of on this windy spot, which I knew enough to be like, this is not good. So we had a lot stacked against us, but it was what it was. So it was a lot of work. It is interesting. They pull you aside to interview you all the time. In the back of your head's like, I should be chopping wood right now. I should be chopping wood. So that part got a little frustrating, but also we signed up for a show. That's part of it. You need to accept that. So it was great. I was really surprised with how little food there would be. In our camp, there were no mushrooms that were edible. There was very little. So I was like, this is going to get interesting. It really hurt us to lose someone. And so then we're down to 3 of us, just for the ability to get enough firewood. And that really, at the end of the day, that's what got us, is we could not get enough firewood to sustain us. So when people don't understand, we're in a rainforest. Normally, there are a lot of things. I could set a fire any day in dry Colorado where I live, but everything is so soaked. You try to dry it in your shirt, like just kindling whatever. it was rough. So yeah, it was rough. So at some point I started having severe like lower back pain, and which, I mean, totally malnourished. I think I had 250 calories in 9 days. We
Wow.
were dehydrated. I was exhausted. I could not sleep. And then I started getting these weird spider bites on my side, and I'm wearing every piece of clothing. I'm like, how are these spiders getting me? And I didn't know, but I did. And this is the difference where the person I went into it saying, you will have to drag me out of here. I will not give up. I know how to endure. You will have to drag me out of here. And so as the days went on and I could feel my body, there was something wrong. And again, like I said, I've gone through frostbite. I've gone through starvation. I've gone through all these things on all the mountains I've been. And this feeling was very different. And I knew this is something I had not felt before. And just something was wrong. So when I decided to flare, it was because I had reached a point where everything in my body, I knew if I didn't remove myself and seek help, I just felt it like I could be putting my body at risk. And I was supposed to leave in 4 months after that for my North Pole expedition. And I did not want to risk that. So I flared. And what ended up happening is finally got back to civilization, maybe at 10 p.m. Our bodies are so amazing. I think I probably woke up at 3 a.m. all of a sudden, fever, all this pain. My body had held on until I was safe. I end up going to, the producers took me to the clinic, the hospital the next morning, and I'm talking to the doctor. They know the situation. I'm like, I got these really weird spider bites, and I lift up my shirt and she's like, lady, you have full-blown shingles. So I had shingles for like 3 to 4 days. And then it started hurting like a mother. But I was just so impressed by my body that it just kept holding on, trying to get me to a safe place. So yeah, so what I had decided when I flared was, what am I thinking? You'll have to drag me out of here. That is asinine. I was like, I have an expedition to do in 3 to 4 months. I want something is very wrong with my body. I'm going to walk out of here while I still can. And to me, that was the difference in experience and age and I guess just responsibility of you don't have to drag me out of here. I'm going to walk out while I still can and go get medical attention. So that was the big epiphany to me. I was like, what am I thinking? No, I don't need to be dragged out of here.
When you look back on the experience and, obviously there was some really hard moments, but is it something that you look back on with a positive light? You're happy you did it, or how do you feel about it?
100%. Oh my gosh. It was so cool to do. It was so beautiful there. And that forest, I mean, it also gave me such an appreciation for that area. And it is one of the last ancient forests on this earth. And I mean, we really are in a time right now where a lot of our public lands and our national forests are being threatened. And these places they can't be regrown. I mean, these are thousands of years. And you'll be walking through this forest and all of a sudden your foot will punch through and you're up to your thigh from just the layers of years and years of growth and decay. And it was beautiful. And I remember at one point to Julio, we're going through and I was like, we were just so awestruck with how the beauty, but the savageness of this forest. I was like, Julio, this place is so gorgeous. It is trying to kill us, but it is gorgeous. And we were just laughing. And it is an amazing place. And then on the water, going to our location, orcas just coming through. And like I was starving, but I was so happy. Because again, and when you get to a place, and that's why I love the mountain, when you're lucky enough to be at a place and all you're thinking about is survival and the basic elements in life, we get to our purest form. And you're not thinking about, well, crap, I got to pay this bill. I need the trash out by Tuesday. What someone said. You're just focused on the exact present. And it is such a calming place to be. And I think there's so much anxiety and there's so much pressure at us. And if everyone could just go to the forest and live for 2 weeks, a little break, like the balancing that it helps bring back to your life is just phenomenal. I was very, extremely happy with that experience.
Yeah, that's well said. There's something incredible that happens when your day-to-day life becomes just staying warm and trying to nourish yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
And then achieving those things, like that's the biggest thing is when you're able to provide yourself fire, drinking water, some food, shelter. It is, I think when we finally got our freaking fire going, I think I yelled out something like F Everest. This is the best moment of my life. Like I made fire. We made fire. Like it was such a great, fulfilling moment. Like it literally meant more to me than standing at the top of Everest.
That's beautiful. I want to, before we get into kind of the mountain stuff, I want to ask you about, that thing you said about the public lands, the current events going on right now, with the Senate talking about selling off public lands, and just curious to get your take on that, being someone that's, spent a lot of time in the mountains and exploring these lands. Where does that land for you?
It's not good. I think we are all, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, we are all in some unprecedented times where we have our beliefs, and the way that we think things should be run. But no matter what side you're on, we need to figure out how to still be able to communicate and talk and solve together. And that's where the biggest problem is. And so I always recommend to people, it's overwhelming right now, and it's hard to know what you can do to make a difference. And I know a lot of friends are just so overwhelmed and just shutting down. My advice, first of all, is this: pick 1 to 2 things that mean the most to you and advocate and speak up for those things. And for me, it is our land, our national forests and our public lands is what's really important to me. Because again, that is where I found myself as a child, as an adult. It's something that living here in Colorado, we enjoy every single day. I live in Vail Valley, and it's interesting, like just, après, oons, all the fun. And to people, I'll be like, do you know that you're standing in White River National Forest right now? Like you're standing in a national forest. So it matters. And, I hike these trails every weekend. I want that. I actually don't have kids. I care very much for the kids there are, like for future generations, for people to be able to see and experience and find in our public lands. And not just for our wildlife and preservation of species, both, flora and fauna. It's important because once we allow the floodgates to open and it to be developed, we cannot get it back. You cannot hit reverse. And so that is why there has been so much time and energy spent on preserving these areas so that we don't lose them. I think it's extremely important to know also that the people that work these lands, our forest rangers, all the different people, some of the best people on this earth, they are not lazy. They are not just taking a paycheck, and we need those people to keep the areas safe as well. So anyway, I think it's extremely important, and it should be important to everyone. This is a natural resource that everyone can use and go to. And so anyway, I get very, so I will be taking a stand quite a bit this year here in Colorado and speaking up for what I believe in. But yeah, I say use your voice. It does matter. And it is, I just saw on the news this morning, someone was just showing that all the protests that are happening to protect our lands, it is making a difference. Congress is starting to pull back. They definitely, the development or the sale a bunch in Utah and some different areas, they pulled that out of certain bills. So it is making a difference. So I just encourage everyone to speak up. It does matter.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of angles to which it's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
Because it is objectively a stupid idea. And yeah, I like what you said. I call it the Mount Rushmore principle, which is you only get to care about 4 things in your life. If you start getting outside of that, it's like then everything's going to bother you. Your life is going to be filled with despair and constant drama. It's like pick a couple things that you care about and let everything else fly off the back of your shoulder. And
Yeah. What do you call it? The 4 or the Rushmore principle?
The Mount Rushmore principle.
I love it.
Yeah. So like you get to have like 4 things that you allow upset you. Everything else not allowed to upset you. And dumb public land policy is definitely on mine. I have a finance background. I was sharing a little analysis I did about the public land sales, basically to prove the point. There's no reason for it. It actually makes no sense. It's probably a net negative. You actually lose the asset. So people forget that for millions of years, humans have been roaming the earth and using these things. Like people get really mad when anybody cuts down a tree, but you were up in the southeast part of Alaska. People have been using trees to build their towns and cities for thousands of years and caretaking the forest, doing it selectively, doing it in a beautiful way. So there is nuance to all of this. And the cool thing is that public lands, like you were mentioning, can actually provide revenue while they're public.
Yeah.
Once you sell them, that cash flowing asset can never provide you money again. The numbers that I found for the $3 million sell off, they were saying $250 billion for all the public land. If we were going to sell $3 billion, you do 3 divided by 250, and you get $5 to $10 billion total, which of our national debt comes out to 0.0003%. So you basically start eradicating what this country is known for, the thing keeping me in America, quite frankly, and then you do nothing to fix the national debt. You still have these incredible interest payments that are spiraling out of control, and you've effectively gotten rid of our coolest, most unique natural resource in the process. It makes no sense, and it's one of the only things that I'll let fire me up because it is stupid.
Well, I'm glad you get fired because I get pretty fired up again. Because here's the other thing is that it doesn't make any sense because it's not about reducing our national debt. It never was about that. It is about giving it to large corporations to be able to take we own, as the American people, we own these public lands. They're going to give it to corporations to be able to sell product to us. So no, it makes no sense because paying down our national debt was never the purpose of this. So yeah, it's absolutely, people are allowing what they already own to be sold off to a corporation that's going to try to sell it back to us. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I would say, if you have never gone to, up through Alaska or the forest through Colorado, or everywhere, every state has something amazing and beautiful to see. I encourage everyone, take your family, go, let it transform you, get out of the noise pollution of the city. And this is something that belongs to everyone. And I think that's another reason why they want to get rid of this, is because anything, honestly, that brings equality to every American just doesn't seem to be very popular anymore. So, and I think that our natural resources and our public lands really is something that belongs to every person. And, we need to be speaking up for it.
Yeah. The other argument I make for people that are like business minded and, it sucks because a lot of the environmentalists like to use the heart and not the head. And then there's like the businessmen that use the head and not the heart. But this is dumb in both respects. And when you think about the outdoor industry, where do you and I go to spend our dollars or to take other people on trips? We go to places that have beautiful public resources. We climb big mountains. We go to places that have these amazing forests, and that increases GDP. That brings people there. That brings people to buy food at restaurants.
Yeah.
Right? You're destroying this entire industry, and you're going to lose the talented people that are guiding in these places. You're going to lose the people that protect these places. There's so many downstream effects of why this is a terrible idea, all because folks are short-sighted and they can only see pink one number that dropped into your bucket for 1 year.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating.
Well, and it's again, I think a lot of people, and a lot of these people are making these decisions. I bet they love going on a ski vacation in Aspen or Vail or wherever, but they don't realize, yeah, exactly, the trickle effect, the impact it's going to make. And it's also how they politicize, climate change is absolutely asinine to me, where I think you and I both, we have been, until you have gone to the farthest reaches of the earth and seen it firsthand. Everyone feels it, like it is already so hot. Oh, there's no climate change. Wake up. But when you really see it, on the glacial melt, or, down in Antarctica, the highest peaks, it is so in your face. It is so undeniable. And the weather, the differences with, like, even Everest and different mountains, it's getting worse and worse every year. Just the instability of the weather, of the weather system, is a direct effect of this. And so, Congress people or whoever, like, I'd love for you to go to the farthest reaches of the earth, then perhaps you would have a different opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good transition too. I want to hear about your experiences doing these things. Tell me about the 7 summits and kind of those things you were just alluding to there. Tell me about this mission you're on to conquer.
Well, like I said, so, hiking has always been a part of my life. In Colorado, the slang is we call them 14ers. So any mountain over 14,000 feet, we've got 58 of them in Colorado. So I started hiking very young with my dad. I probably did my first 14er with him when I was probably like 11 or 12 years old. And it was just always a thing. And I hiked Kilimanjaro, which is the highest peak in Africa and Tanzania, when I was 29, and my dad was 63 and he wanted to go. I'm like, yeah, let's go. And it was really, really awesome. It was amazing. And then I was just hiking cute stuff, like, oh, let's go do Mount Fuji. I was a hiker. I was a trekker. But I had a horrific snowboarding accident 15 years ago, and just in the back bowls of Vail, and completely broke my femur, decapitated it off, spiral fracture down, muscles ripped off. Bad news bears. And then told I'd have a cane or wheelchair the rest of my life. And at that point, kind of everything that I built this grit, and I'm like, yeah, that's not going to be my life. So I changed everything to fight for my mobility again. Then turns out I was allergic to the titanium rod in my leg. So it took me a year and a half to figure that out. But my carrot, all I could think about was doing a trek to Everest Base Camp again, which I had done that before. And I had no thoughts of Everest at that point, but that was my carrot that I kept focusing on. And so 2 years after the accident and recovering, I did the trek. And it was so easy for me in comparison to before, because of so much pain I had gone through. That 2 years was non-stop, horrendous. Oh, I guess a year and a half from the titanium allergy, horrendous pain, never stopped. And so I was so much stronger mentally, physically, emotionally. So I did this trek and I was like, that was a piece of cake. I want to do Kilimanjaro again. So I went back to Kilimanjaro. Yeah, like easy peasy. So I was like, I want to do something higher. So I decided on Aconcagua, which is the highest peak in South America, in Argentina. And that's at about 23,000 feet. I loved it. And that one, oh my gosh, is so awesome. Like, we carry all our own stuff, which I really love that too. Certain mountains you are required to have staffing and help with public or the local population, which I totally support. And there are teams that go, but I love this one because we had to carry it ourselves. And I got done with that. And I thought that was really fun. I was drinking wine in Mendoza afterwards. I met this amazing woman who's 29, and that was her 7th summit. I was like, when did you do Everest? And she did it when she was 19. She was lineage of George Mallory. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. But she's like, how was Aconcagua? I'm like, it was fun. And she's like, you should start training to be like training your skills, become a mountaineer. You could do Everest. And that was the day that I really realized I had something with this. I all of a sudden had all fear was gone. I was just so willing to push through anything. And I'm like, I'm going to do this because I want to show everyone that with like grit, you can really do anything you want. So I really started training. I was learning to ice climb, mountain climb. I was taking prep courses. I went and did Elbrus in Russia, which is the highest for Europe. And then I went for Denali. And I had done like a week-long prep course in Mount Baker. I felt I was ready. And yeah, crushed Denali. And I remember at the, we had climbed it. We're back at our base camp. And I looked at my guide and I'm like, am I ready for Everest? And he was like, fuck yeah, you're ready for Everest. I was like, sweet. And so I had just decided like, I am doing these 7 summits. And in that then, as I started getting more in the community and really doing the work to earn that spot, I really found out about this thing called the Explorers Grand Slam. So then that adds in last degree ski to the North-South Pole. So it's all self-supported. You're pulling like 100-pound sled behind you. You're on a Nordic setup. They drop you at 89 degrees latitude. You and your team go the last, so it's about 70 miles to the pole. And that is a whole different kind of punishment. And I love it. It's crazy. So I did Antarctica. I did the South Pole and back to back when I was climbing Mount Vinson. And so very few people have done it. I know why. It takes a lot of time. There's a lot of logistics. There's geopolitical things that, COVID canceled things. The wars around the world canceled things. It's also a beautiful moment where you come together in teams from international and it's a group of people just there to be there, to climb, to ski, whatever it is. And it's this amazing moment, but all I have left for that is the North Pole. I've been trying for 5 years to get there, but it keeps getting canceled. A lot of it has to do with the geopolitical situation between Russia and Ukraine. But yeah, it gets canceled. I'm like, okay, we train another year. We're like not giving up. I'm still going. So really looking forward to that again, hopefully next year. Also looking into alternatives and got some other stuff planned. So then I will be the 5th American woman to finish the Explorers Grand Slam and about the 13th woman internationally.
That's amazing.
Yay! Someday if I get there.
What does your training look like week to week? Like how do you think about endurance training?
I love that question because it, especially to do all the 7 summits, North and South Pole, it also a big part of it too is the funding. It's hard. It is interesting. A lot of people I meet, they definitely have wealth from other areas. It's very easy. I'm a one-woman show and I've got a great job as an engineer, but these expeditions this is not a cheap sport. And I also understand why so few people have done it. It's a lot of money. And so a lot of times you've got to wait until you've raised the money or saved up enough to be able to go. So we're talking about, it's probably a short amount of time to really do all this, probably a 10-year period for me. So training, you've got to kind of ebb and flow. And you've also got to listen to your body as we get older. I wish I knew I was so good at mountaineering in my 20s. But then again, I would not have had, the money also to pay for a lot of this stuff. So it's hard. So it depends on what I'm training for. When you're training for the big mountains like Everest, That is huge dedication. They always say, don't be in the best shape of your life, be in Everest shape of your life. So that's a lot of hardcore every weekend. It is spending time on the mountain, 6 to 8 hours, on Saturday, Sunday, a little bit on Friday, really being on the mountain, either, hiking, getting your crampons on, training in the snow. The North Pole, the poles are different. It's a Nordic setup. So, and smaller mountains, it's different. When I was training for Carson's Pyramid, which is more of a technical climb, it was a lot more get out, rock climb, ice climb, build back up, just forearms, that sort of thing. So keeping a general level of fitness, always, living in Colorado makes that very easy to do. So I'm always hiking, ice climbing, biking, whatever, skinning. It's very easy to keep that level of fitness going. As I've gotten older, the biggest thing, part of training has also become recovery. 20s, 30s, I paid no attention to recovery. 40s, I just turned 51. You have to take care of your body. You have to recover. So it's eating properly after the workout. It's giving your body sleep and rest. A lot of stress affects us. And so it's really having that total approach is really part of my training now more than it ever was. And so it's dealing with injuries as soon as you start to feel something on. I think after, especially living in a mountain town, everyone's just constantly in PT. It's just our way of life. But yeah, I found a lot of my endurance training is really learning to truly take care of myself inside and out to prevent injury and hence kind of eliminating downtime.
That's amazing. And I had no idea that you were 51. You look
Thank
much,
you.
much younger.
Climbing mountains keeps you young.
That's right. Yeah. It's very inspiring. And I look at folks that have been doing this for a while, and all I can think about is that's the kind of athlete I want to be. Not somebody that just rips it in their 20s and 30s and then tells people about the stuff they used to do. I never want to be the guy that talks about what I used to do.
Yeah.
Right? I want to be the guy that still does it late into his life, like 60s, 70s, 80s. We have a really steep climb here called Mount Morrison in the Front Range. It's short, but it's super rugged. And I was on top of it last week, and this guy was talking to me, and he's like, yeah, I do this about once a week. I'm 76 years old. And I was like, most 30-year-olds I know cannot do this. And he's doing it once a week at 76. And I'm like, that is my life goal.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the way that you get there, because I've actually had this conversation a lot. I've got a lot of friends that are the whole much younger to much older. And the one thing a lot of people will say is, well, my body I used to. And I'm like, that's where you need to stop yourself, because we are constantly we're one direction. We are always getting older. That's not going to change. And the thing, accept it and then adapt with it. There's so much that you can do to keep your body super healthy, like I was talking about. But for you to have the mindset of, well, I should be able to do, and compare it to something maybe your 30-year-old self was doing, that is stupid. You will will always be disappointed. It will never be. But you need to change. Like my mountain bike, I used to be a really aggressive rider. And had a bike that was super fast, but I am to the point where, and especially when I really started training for Everest, I pulled back on my mountain biking because I didn't want to risk injury, because I wouldn't have time to heal, and that is big money and big time. And when I finally got back into mountain biking, I'm like, I really don't want to take the risks I was taking. So I got a different bike, and now I am so enjoying it. Now the mountain biking for me is more of the really great workout. It's such a great key and component to training, but I don't need to be taking the risk of going balls out downhill and, breaking my shoulder again or something. And so it's adapting to what is your end goal and adapt to that. And if your goal is to I want to be active till I die and doing things, then you need to adjust what that looks like for you and still have things that are challenging and pushing. But yeah, people have gotten, a lot of it's ego. Like, oh, well, I need to be able to climb this as fast as I did 20 years ago. Dude, that's stupid. Like, and then also put yourself with people and group of people that are on the same path you are. And it's really great up here because I go and skin with this amazing group of women that are in their 20s and 30s, but we also almost start this mentorship. There's a group of us that are 40s, 50s, even 60s, and we do these skinning together, and we all move as a group, and it's a mentorship opportunity. Yeah, there's just so much in the outdoor space you can still do that challenges you, but almost in a way you redefine what your place is in it, and you give mentorship and you still find purpose. But it's you being very aware of what that looks like and what that's going to mean for you.
Definitely. Yeah, that's very well said. And with that, I know you mentioned, you were saying you're possibly training for some other stuff right now, not necessarily focused on the North Pole. Would you be willing to share kind of what those projects are coming up?
Yeah, I could share a little bit. So, the one thing I learned a long time ago, I'm usually always like, oh, here's what I'm doing. I learned, don't share everything until it's freaking done. That's another thing that comes with age. Part of it is I've been trying to give myself something else to do than the siren call of more 8,000 meter peaks. Oh, that call is loud. And again, it's me doing something about any mountaineer. Man, that's the quicksand we get into of like, well, but I know I could do this. I should go do it. And, again, like the instability of weather and avalanche, all these things, it's getting riskier. I am not 30 anymore. And so I've been trying to pivot, and I think I found a pivot. I've teamed up, and actually it's part of me trying to figure out something else for the North Pole. There's so much ice melt. You can do the last degree ski, we think, but I think there's a lot of open water. So I'm like, maybe there need to be like some sort of kayaking involved. Maybe we need to do a hybrid. And then I'm part of the Explorers Club. I met this amazing team of guys, Wes Hansen, his partner Jeff. They're the Arctic Cowboys. We're gonna do some Arctic kayaking and try to pull off some stuff that's never been done before. So putting together a team there, I'm super excited about it. Honestly, I just want to see a narwhal. That's all it's about. A narwhal and a polar bear. That's all I need in my life. But it's actually building on to maybe create something bigger, an expedition for the North Pole. And then my biggest challenge that I've been working on, harder than anything, is I just got done writing a book. And as a dyslexic, this has probably been the most painful thing I've ever done in my life. And everyone's like, why didn't you just use AI or get a ghostwriter? I'm like, because I want to do this. It's a challenge. I'm glad I did it. I don't ever want to do it again. But I'm in the editing process, and I'm so excited to hopefully get that out in the next couple months. And it is about grit, the principles of gratitude, growth, resilience, integrity, and tenacity, and how to apply those things to your life. It does not have to be, huge like Everest or, running from polar bears. I really want it to resonate with everyone, for you to be able to identify of what that means for you. What is your Everest? What is your extraordinary thing? What is your full potential? And so, yeah, really excited to get that out. And then, then I'm going to start leading. I'm going to start leading some people on some grit tours to start adventuring up Kilimanjaro, Everest Base Camp for themselves, and start bringing some of this outdoor into their life.
That's beautiful. When does the book come out? Do you know?
Good question. So I am in the editing process right now. I've got a little bit more to go. I hope I'll be done with editing fully in a month, and then we start figuring out the rest of it, which is the cover. And so I really hope it will be released by end of year.
Very cool.
Fingers
crossed.
crossed.
Let me know when that comes out, and I'll share it with.
I'll send you
with
one,
all-
mister.
All right. I think I think a lot of folks that listen to this podcast or friends of mine would resonate with that. I think that's something a lot of us as adventure athletes think about, which is how do I get to the deathbed and go, man, I fucking did it. Like I really went out there and I applied myself in whatever way was important to me, and that I think is that realization that we only have one chance to do it is very key and center to a lot of us achieving these big goals, even if they seem contrived to other people and meaningless and nobody else understands why we're doing it. It's important to us that we chase these dreams,
Because it is, and I the key part that I really talk about, and I hope it comes across in this book, is there is the portion of the strength and determination it takes to dedicate, to sacrifice, to keep moving forward, to struggle. That part's very understood. And I think a lot of people have problems, or, they really struggle with the motivation or the inspiration to do it. The part that's not talked about a lot that I really talk about is the hardest part is the willingness to not achieve it, the willingness to fail, the willingness to make an absolute idiot of yourself, the willingness to deal with the negative voices and the reality of the negativity from other people and yourself. I like to tell people again, every single day, every challenge I take on, there's that little voice that's like, what are you doing? You can't do this. I've just gotten really good at saying, shut the fuck up and doing it anyway. It's that first part of letting go of the fear of what you'll think, what others will think, and doing it anyway. And sometimes for me, it really is like, ooh, I understand that there is a very good chance I am not going to make it on this try, and doing it anyway. There is a chance I could totally F this up, and doing it anyway. That is the key part. And when you are able to let go of that fear, take a deep breath in and just move through it, that is grit. That is what it is. The standing on a summit is a blip in time. It is the work that it took to get there, which truly builds who you are. And for example, on Everest, I do kind of talk about it, to stand on the top was not the feeling I thought I'd have. It was not this overwhelming joy and relief. I was annoyed. I happened to go on the first day you could go, and it was very, very crowded, and I knew the battle. We had to get back down anyway, but I was so down afterwards because I saw so many people on that mountain literally open a box of crampons and boots for the first time. And I'm like, what? I had worked so hard to earn the spot to be there and gain the skills. And I realized anyone can climb this mountain. And my idea of what's fair or not, which just messed with me so much. And but it was part of the process I needed to go through to understand it. For me, I let others take away from my win. And my win was not the top of the mountain. My win was everything it took for me to get there. And that was my lesson. And I am better off for it, because the people that just paid someone else to pull them or push them, they walk away, they're probably still an asshole inside. But, but to actually that, and to be able to see that the work you put in, no matter whether you made it or not, knowing that you're the winner for what it's done for you, man, like that is so freeing, and just helps you deal with so much in this life of what is fair or not. What is fair or not? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Just, I got to stay on my path.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing to think about. And what I'm hearing and what I resonate with is that the resistance and the most difficult part of all of these things is like the week or two leading up. Once you get into the event, once your feet are moving and you're walking up the mountain, that's just like slight discomfort, and I'm fine doing that. It's the mental talk, it's the preparation, it's the not allowing yourself to pull out of whatever the mission is, and just getting to the start line.
Yeah.
That is the hardest part of all of these missions.
Oh my God. I love that you said that because, it is so true. I remember when I'll just use any mountain like Denali, Everest. I paid attention, and now when I talk to people that are about to do it, I'm like, when you get to the airport, you've checked everything in, and you're sitting there waiting for your flight to go. I want you to take a deep breath in and feel so accomplished that you just got to that point. Because honestly, for a big mountain like that, to have done the work and the training and the prep on your body and the sacrificing and nope, I can't go out tonight. I got to get up early and train. Everything you went through. Then the gear list to go through, to be on a mountain for 2 months, triple checking, having all the gear, knowing what works, going through all the paperwork, all of the insurance you need, all of the making sure your will is in order, having the conversation with your friends like, well, if I die, sorry, it's intense for you just to get through all of that in order to even go do the thing. You should be so proud of yourself of that accomplishment. And it is recognizing those little milestones along the way and celebrating those. And I think that's a really important thing. I'm sure you know too, for anything endurance. Endurance takes a long time. You've got to take those moments to appreciate along the way. Otherwise you'll burn out. You totally burn out.
Yeah, that's very, very well said. And I think that's a good capstone to this conversation. I think people are going to get a lot out of this. And if folks want to hear more about what you've got going on, what's the best place for them to find you?
I would love it. So yeah, on the Instas, it's GGRIT, so G Grit. And then that's my website as well, grit.com. And I would love for anyone to follow me, and hopefully that book will be coming out. And also, I'm a keynote speaker. I love to come and talk to everything from schools, groups, corporations on how to apply those tools to your life, because it really, all those things, I mean, it's a part of every day. It's just moving through that cycle that we go through our entire lives. And it just gets easier and easier. I mean, life doesn't get easier. We just get much better at dealing with it.
100%. Meghan, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing all your
you.
stories and your wisdom. And love to link up sometime when I'm out in the Vail Valley, and we can get a hike in or something.
I would love it. Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, until next time, everybody, stay wild.
Love it. Thanks.